This is Johnny from Tiger Bomb MMA, and tonight I'll be going over UFC Fight Night, Font versus Aldo, giving you my entire thoughts, predictions, possible parlays. No Jose this week again. He's currently still on a sabbatical. He should be back, I would say, next week for the Poirier versus Oliveira card. Looking forward to having him back. But for now, just me. But I'll start off with saying that this card is fantastic, top to bottom. I'm extremely excited for this fight card. Compared to the 2 weeks ago, we had a Misha Tate fight card. That entire card was pretty whack. We only had one finish in that entire card, and that was Talia Santos. So thank God for her. The Misha Tate fight, I have to say, Tate versus Vieira. I've never been so bored in a fight before that instead of watching the fight, I was more entertained shopping for area rugs. So I just had to get that out of the way. But for this entire fight card, I'm incredibly excited. I'm actually disappointed for one thing, though. Matt Brown was supposed to fight Brian Barberena. So I was hyped as hell for that fight. I even have a little graphic here that I'm going to show you, a little clip, if you will, that explains to you how I felt when I found out that Barberena was fighting Matt Brown. And this next clip is a rendition of how I felt after I found out that the fight was canceled due to Matt Brown testing positive for COVID. People say that comedy is hard. It's not really hard. You just take other people's shit and you pass it off as your own. But we'll get started at a bantamweight bout. Louis Smolka versus Vince Morales. Currently, the odds have it in favor for Smolka minus 140. Come back on Morales plus 120. Interesting little bout. I like Louis Smolka, just to get that out of the way. I've always been a fan of his, win or lose. Dude made me some pretty good money when he fought Paddy Houlihan back in the day. So I've always kind of been on the Smolka train, win, lose, or draw. And the thing about Smolka is that he's a solid fighter all around, decent enough striking. His ground game's really where it's at, but he does kind of get stuck with the, like, at least my perception of him being kind of a scramble fighter. He's really good in those scrambles on the ground. Morales, tough guy, good striker, not overly excelling in one particular department, but I would say his striking is really where he gets his job done. He out-toughed Draco Rodriguez in his last fight, which I semi-predicted. I went with Rodriguez, but I'm like, I think Morales has a chance to win this one. It's going to be a close one, and it just so happened to be that was the case. I didn't touch that bout whatsoever, but yeah, Morales, he's a tough dude at plus 120. He's always live, especially with lower ranking dudes like Louis Smolka. But I just think Smolka is going to be better everywhere. If he takes this to the ground, I think Morales might be screwed because Smolka is super slick on the ground. His striking's getting better. He's 30 years old, dude. I've been watching this guy for a while. He doesn't seem 30, so it's kind of crazy to see. They're both kind of on really spotty records in the UFC, so they both really need this. Smolka's kind of an interesting fighter outside of the cage. He has some issues, so as long as he comes correct, I think he wins this fight. I will go Smolka by decision. Again, Morales is a bit of a dog, so he's always willing to work for your money. I would say stay away from this one, but me being me, I'm going to go with Smolka. Plus 140, I'm willing to take those odds. Next bout, welterweight, Alex Morono versus Mickey Gall. And currently the odds are overwhelmingly for Morono minus 220. Come back on Mickey Gall is plus 180. I really would have thought that Mickey Gall would have been a slightly lesser of an underdog, maybe closer to like the similar odds to Smoke and Morales, like a minus 140, minus one, or plus 120, because Mickey Gall's hands have improved a bit, as his last fight showed with Jordan Williams. He's got a bit of power in that right hand. Mickey Gall's been training his striking with Joe Schilling, and it's okay. It's gotten definitely better. He's a lot more comfortable on the feet, but I'm still fading Mickey Gall. I think Mickey Gall's a dangerous guy. As we know, he's very solid on the ground. He takes your back. He will get that choke in, so you have to be very careful. The thing about Alex Morono, as much as I faded him in the past, I've joked around that without hair, he does look like the great white supremacist. I like Alex. I think he's a student of the game. I just don't think he's very athletic. It's crazy to think that Mickey Gall is going to be the more athletic guy here. I think Morono takes this. He has a lot of movement in the cage. He jumps around a lot, uses decent enough footwork that I think is gonna it's going to really mess up Mickey Gall's game plan. And I think Morono's just a very solid guy on the ground. And I don't think Mickey Gall is going to really put him in any immediate danger that Morono's not used to. The only concern I have about Morono is that he can get clipped. It really depends on how much power Mickey Gall really has. He did knock down Jordan Williams, and I hate to say it, I kind of overvalued Mickey Gall when thinking about this fight. I'm like, does Mickey Gall have a chance to win? And I rewatched the fight with Jordan Williams, and in my mind, I remember uh, Mickey Gall dropping Jordan Williams, almost knocking him out. But then I rewatch it, and it wasn't that bad. It seemed worse in my mind because I actually had Williams to win that fight, and he shit the bed. Uh, but yeah, I think Morono, I think he takes it pretty easily. I think he is the rightful favorite, but I don't think he should be that high of a favorite of minus 220. But I will go with Morono to win this one by a decision. It should be tough the first round, maybe at the very least. If we're going to put Morono in the most danger, it might be in the first round. And then later round, second and third, I think he takes it. Mickey Gall's gas tank is always going to be suspect to me, so we'll see how he does in this particular fight. But I do have Morono to win this one by a decision. Then moving on, one of the easier fights for me to pick would be Felipe Lins versus Azamat Murzakanov. Murzakanov round one knockout. I don't think Felipe Lins is UFC material, unfortunately. The odds are actually pretty decent for Azamat. They're minus 230 compared to Felipe Lins at a minus or plus 190. Lins is on a two-fight losing streak. He lost to Andrei Arlovsky. No big shame there. And then he got knocked out by Tanner Boser. A bit of a shame there. As much as I like Boser these days, but getting knocked out by Tanner Boser's not the best look. He's doing better now. Tanner Boser's been knocking out some pretty decent competition, but dude, Felipe Lins, you were the guy that was going to come into the UFC from the I was going to call it the World Series of Fighting, but from PFL, and then just show that you belong, but he just never did. And moving down in weight, we'll see how he looks on the scale. I don't think his chin's going to really hold up at light heavyweight. So, yeah, I think he's going to get knocked out or possibly just decisioned. Um, Azamat, dude's pretty solid. The only concern I have of his is that he's 35 years old and Felipe Lins is 36. And also, I think he popped for something in the past. So that's always a concern. But he had a pretty good showing in the contender series, knocked out Mateus Schufel. He did pretty well. He's just very patient. In that particular fight, he didn't show any of his wrestling. Guys who might know what's his level in wrestling, I could not verify it online. So if you happen to know, let me know. He is Russian, so his last name ends in Av. I think he's going to win this one by a knockout first round. The next fight, interesting bout. Went back and forth on this one a bit, but at lightweight, Claudio Puelles versus Chris Gruetzemacher. And currently the odds have it in favor of Gruetzemacher minus 120. Comeback on Puelles is plus 100. I initially went with Puelles because I always fade Gruetzemacher, but looking back at both of their fights, both of their wins, I changed my mind. I'm actually going with Gruetzemacher, and the reason for it is that the dude has some pretty gnarly recovery. He gets hurt by Rafa Garcia. Did I call him Rafa? Fuck that guy. Rafa Garcia. He doesn't get to be Brazilian in this case. Rafa Garcia kind of cracks him in the first round, and he recovers incredibly well. It's almost like he's in a perpetual state of being rocked, that he's incredibly comfortable in it. And then when thinking about that and rewatching the fight with Claudio Puelles and Monkey King, what's his name? Jordan Levitt. He didn't look all that impressive. He just kind of held down Jordan because he didn't really seem anxious enough to get back up. So he ended up winning the 29-28 decision. His striking's not very impressive. Chris Gruetzemacher, talk shit about him all you want. The dude is very, very tough. And I think he's very skilled on the feet because he's very grimy. He's very gritty. It's crazy because he was beating the shit out of Rafa Garcia. And it sucks to say because like a lot of people, I had money on Garcia, and he's forever tainted in my eyes. Like I don't care if he wins his next 20 fights in a row. I'm never betting on that guy again. But for Gruetzemacher, I think the dude has the ability to push a pace and really do some damage, and maybe even cut up Puelles' pretty little face. I'm gonna go with Gruetzemacher. I think he keeps doing what he's doing. I think in this particular fight, I don't think Claudio has the power or really any sort of threat for Gruetzemacher other than taking him down and trying to hold him down. And Gruetzemacher did fairly well with a very strong Garcia. So I'll go with Gruetzemacher to win this one by a decision. I think he has enough in the tank to just put a nasty pace on Claudio and then just cut him up with elbows and just be very grimy in the clinch and just in the pocket. So I'll go with Gruetzemacher by decision. Next bout, light heavyweight, Alonzo Menifield versus William Knight. A lot of BBC in this particular fight. Oh man, two big beefy boys. This one can really go either way. I think right now, though, I'm keeping this one short. I think Menifield's the better fighter opposed to William Knight. William Knight, very strong, and that's pretty much it. He uses his strength as his primary weapon. He doesn't really have a whole ton of technique, but he gets the job done a significant large amount of time. He's 10-2, and it's ridiculous to think that he's able to reverse position from being in mount. Like someone's on his stomach trying to punch him out, and he reverses that and gets on top. The dude's very strong, but I think he can be a bit sloppy. His last fight was a knockout win over Fabio Charant, and I called it. I called it. He was going to knock him out in the first round. I was cashing that check, baby. That was nice, but it was like, oh shit, I don't know if I want to bet on William Knight anymore. As for Alonzo Menifield, he really bounced back slightly after two pretty bad losses. Devin Clark decisioned him after he was holding him against the cage. He just could not do enough to win that decision. It was pretty shitty, and he got knocked out by Ovince St. Preux. Since then, it seems like he's kind of evolved his game, not necessarily only trying to get the knockout. He actually submitted Fabio Charant by Von Vluchok, which is funny because it almost seems like Ovince St. Preux knocked him out with that left hook and then transferred the power of the Von Vluchok to Alonzo Menifield. And last fight that he won, Ed Herman, he kind of beat up Ed Herman. Ed Herman's always a tough dude, so him being able to win a decision against Ed Herman, I think it just proves that Alonzo Menifield at this very moment is the better fighter, roughly about the same age. Alonzo Menifield's a taller guy, 6 foot tall compared to the 5'10" of William Knight. And surprisingly, William Knight only has a 3-inch reach disadvantage. As long as Alonzo Menifield doesn't leave his chin wide open for one of those weird William Knight attacks, his striking is like not the best. I think Alonzo Menifield wins this one pretty comfortably. I don't think he'll knock out William Knight. I just think he'll probably batter him up on the feet and just cruise his way to a decision at minus 175 from Menifield. I don't really like that too much, but I think it's okay. I guess I might not put him on a parlay, but I think he wins this fight. I didn't say, but William Knight's plus 140. There might be some value on William Knight, just possible for a knockout. But other than that, I think Menifield's going to win this one by a decision. Next bout, strawweight. We've got Mallory Martin versus Cheyenne Vlismas, formerly Cheyenne Buys. I could not confirm why she changed her name. And many of us would assume it would be because she dumped that loser husband of hers, JP Buys, and went back to her maiden name. I'm just joking. He's not a loser. He just hasn't won in the UFC. So if anyone knows, please leave it in the comments. I'd like to find out. I used to joke around and say that Cheyenne Buys was the perfect woman. Unfortunately, she was married to JP because I think she said something during like an interview saying that like, oh, I feel bad that I have to train and not fulfill my womanly duties to my husband. And I'm like, holy shit, this girl's awesome. As for Mallory Martin, she, if I recall correctly, is dating or is engaged to Duran Wynn. I could be wrong about that. I might be thinking of someone else. I don't care. But for this one, I think Cheyenne Buys takes it. She's currently a minus 190. Comeback on Mallory Martin is plus 160. Cheyenne Buys kind of left a really sour taste in my mouth since that Ruiz loss. So Mallory Martin, I think she might be live for a win on this one. She's primarily a grappler. Again, may or may not be dating Deron Win. I just think that the striking is going to be the biggest factor here. Cheyenne Buys can definitely learn how to properly stuff a takedown. I don't think Mallory Martin's going to learn how to take a shot very well or strike very well. Hannah Cyphers was lighting her up on the feet until she took her down and got the submission. And it just wasn't a good look. And then, of course, Mallory Martin lost to Polyana Viana. As much as I do not like that Ruiz loss for Cheyenne, I'll still go with her to win this one. I think she's just kind of a nasty bitch in the best way I can say that word. I think she's just a nasty bitch. She'll go in there and fuck you up, follow you home, if you will. But yeah, I'll go with Cheyenne Vlisma to win this one by I'm going to say a second round knockout. I would like to see that. I'd like to see Mallory Martin on her ass. Stay away from this one, as women's MMA is always. Just stay away from it. I can see Mallory Martin grinding out a decision win, maybe a split, but I think the power and the striking, of course, of Vlisma is going to make it interesting, and I think she might actually get that second round knockout, probably a head kick again. Next bout at flyweight, we've got Zhumagulov versus Manel Kape. The odds currently have it at -210 for Manel Kape. Comeback on Zalgas is +175. I think this one's pretty clear to me. I think Manel is the rightful favorite at -210. I don't necessarily like those odds because Zalgas is always game. He's got some good wins on his record. It's just that I think right now in the UFC at this time, at these ages, 28 for Manel, 33 for Zalgas, and the reach advantage by 2 inches for Manel Kape. I think that's going to play a huge factor. Now that Kape has a win in the UFC, I do think that he's going to perform a lot better. Zalgas also got his first win in the UFC, but that was against Jerome Rivera. Jerome was looking pretty good until he wasn't. God damn it, Jerome. I put money on Jerome to win, and he just let me down. That was his one shot. I thought he could beat Zalgas, and I still think he can. It's just that he didn't want to win that day. But yeah, I got Manel Kape to win this one. I think he's just going to be the faster guy. Between both of these, I think their striking doesn't necessarily cancel each other out, but I think that Manel Kape is going to be the faster guy and the guy with the more power. I wouldn't be surprised if he knocks out Zalgas, but I will go with Kape to win this one by a decision. I think it's going to be a fun fight to watch. I just think right now that Kape has the better momentum, actually knocking out his opponent, Ode Osborne, who I still think is a pretty decent flyweight right now, although I faded him in his last fight. Another disappointing loss, EJ Vergara. But I think Kape has the better, well-rounded tools. I know he hasn't really shown off his ground game. I really don't think it might go to the ground. I think it's going to be primarily a striking batter. Zalgas is well-rounded. He's like a little hurricane. But again, I think the power of Manel Kape is going to be the X factor here that's going to lead him to a decision. Next bout, welterweight. This particular fight, I've actually been thinking about a lot. This, out of the entire card, is one that I've been the most cerebral about. And this is about between Jake Matthews, the Celtic Kid, and Jeremiah Wells. And currently the odds have it in favor of Jake Matthews, -190. Comeback on Wells is +160. And the reason this one's kind of been the one I've been thinking about the most, because it's one of the most interesting bouts between two guys. Jake Matthews, he's 27 years old. He's 5'11", 72-inch reach. 27 years old, right? This dude's been in the UFC for a long time. He grew up in front of our eyes, moving from weight class to weight class. And now he's fighting Jeremiah Wells, a guy coming out of a very hot camp right now, Renzo Gracie, Philly. He is 35 years old. So that's like, oh shit, he's kind of an older guy. He's 5'9". He's got a height disadvantage, but he does have a reach advantage of 3 inches at 75 inches. What's so interesting about this fight is that when you just think about it, it's like, okay, let's be clear. Jake Matthews, I think he's very well-rounded, good on the ground, good on the feet. Maybe not the best gas tank, but not necessarily the best fighter. He's just pretty solid. And then we've got Jeremiah Wells, a guy, again, coming off of the hottest camp right now with training partners such as previously Paul Felder, the very hot Sean Brady, and also the very, very hot at featherweight, Pat Sabatini. These guys are just incredible grapplers. And we haven't seen Jeremiah Wells' grappling in the UFC because, and this is why I'm kind of leaning towards him, his fight with Warley Alves. This guy comes in on short notice and says, fuck it, I'm going to go out there guns a blazing. And if I lose, I lose because it's your UFC debut. You may not have the most gas tank readily available in a short notice fight against a very solid opponent. And he goes out there and blitzes him and doesn't stop blitzing him. And he's just ridiculous. He goes out there balls to the walls to the point that I'm like, this guy's going to gas himself out. He's a huge, strong dude. And I'm noticing he's not breathing out of his mouth in the second round. He's still breathing through his nose. Then he eventually just completely steamrolls Warley Alves and knocks him out. And I'm like, damn. It was very sloppy at points, but I'm like, I really like this guy's mentality that I'm going to go in here and I'm going to either knock this guy out or get knocked out spectacularly. Either way, I'm going to show up to fight. And that's what I really like. I like that mentality that he didn't even have to tell me that's what he was thinking. It's clear as day that this guy's just here to fucking fight. And I don't think we've seen his skills on the ground. I know he's very strong. I think he even lifted up Warley Alves. It's just that I think Jake Matthews is the better fighter. Just overall well-roundedness. I think he has a chance to win this fight, but I am not going to go with Jake Matthews. I'm going with Jeremiah Wells at plus 160, knowing that this guy's going to fight for my money. And again, we haven't seen his ground game yet. And methinks it's going to be quite good, especially training with Brady and Pat Sabatini. Like, he's a Renzo Gracie black belt. And again, we haven't seen it. He's going to have the power advantage, the reach advantage, the fuck it advantage. Yeah, I think Jake Matthews, he could win this one by a decision, but I think Jeremiah Wells is just so dangerous on the feet that I can see him knocking out Jake Matthews in the second round. That type of power is just ridiculous. As long as he doesn't blow his wad too early in the fight, I think Wells takes this either second round knockout or by decision. Again, I really do think Jake Matthews is the better fighter, and logically, I think he should win this one. But the fact that Jeremiah Wells is going to fight for my money, I have to take a shot on him to win this one at plus 160. I'm going with Wells to win by second round knockout. Next bout at middleweight. I'm surprised this is happening, but Maki Coconut Bombs Pitolo versus Dusko Thunder Todorovic. And currently the odds have it minus 174 Todorovic. Come back on Coconut Bombs is minus 145. I don't know what to say about Maki Pitolo still in the UFC. I do like the guy, and I think he's talented, but I don't think he's going to win this fight. He's currently on a 3-fight losing streak. He looked better than ever against Julian Marquez in his last fight about 8 months ago, but it wasn't enough. He got submitted by the Anaconda choke. His striking looked good. His wrestling looked good. It's just that I think it's a little too late at this point. Dusko, he lost to RoboCop, Gregory Rodriguez, in a fight that I thought he was going to get knocked out in the first or second round. And he looked pretty solid. He ended up losing that decision. But for him, I would say not getting knocked out was kind of a moral victory. I think at this very point, Dusko being the younger guy, the taller guy, funny enough, he only has half an inch reach over Maki Pitolo, who's 5'10", and he's 6'1", the Dusko, that is. 74 inches for Dusko, 73 and a half for Pitolo. I think Dusko, using his movement and his kind of leaving his chin up in the air, I don't think it's going to really be a factor against Maki Pitolo. Pitolo hits hard. He rips to the body very nicely. I think with the height and slight reach advantage, Dusko is going to just not necessarily style on Pitolo, but just stay on the outside and edge out a decision. I don't think it's going to be the most entertaining bout. It's really as entertaining as Maki wants to make it. If he really, really wants to fight for his job, he has to go out there and get that knockout, which definitely I think he can get against Dusko. But I think Dusko is the more skilled guy, just the more likely fighter to get knocked out. So he has kind of that chin issue. So I'll go with Dusko as long as he doesn't get clipped. I think he should win. The fact that he didn't get knocked out by Gregory Rodriguez kind of indicates that his defense and his rolling with the punches is slightly improving. So I'll go with Dusko to win this one by decision, but I ain't touching this fucking this fight whatsoever. I'm just gonna enjoy it. And before we begin breaking down the main card, please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. Funny enough, on Twitter, I just got followed by Nick Cannon. Yes, the Nick Cannon. And what's funny about it is that I was talking shit about Nick Cannon because he said something stupid during the Triad event, that thriller mixed martial arts slash boxing versus MMA bullshit. I'm not really sure what the rules are, but I was watching it and he said something really stupid about how MMA fighters are not used to getting punched to the body. So I guess I tweeted that, and now he's following me, which is kind of weird. I don't know how to feel about that. But yeah, like, share, subscribe, comment. Do love those comments. And yeah, to begin the main card, short notice bout, Brendan Allen versus Chris Curtis. This bout was supposed to be Brendan Allen versus Roman Dolidze. And I was like, oh shit. As much as I think Dolidze is a tough dude, Brendan Allen's going to kick his ass. Now he's got Chris Curtis, the surging Chris Curtis, the Chris Curtis that knocked out the Phil Hawes, that I finally said, yeah, you know what? Phil Hawes is pretty solid. I think he beats Chris Curtis. Chris Curtis's only shot to win this bout against Phil Hawes is if he took the fight when it was initially supposed to happen. I guess Phil Hawes turned down the fight against Chris Curtis on short notice. Weeks later, they ended up fighting. Phil Hawes looks great, and then Phil Hawes gets cracked and knocked out by Chris Curtis. That was bittersweet because I did have Phil Hawes on a parlay, but luckily I was smart enough to not necessarily put Phil Hawes on a parlay, but I put the fight wouldn't go the distance on one parlay, and then it ended up cashing. So it's like sucks that my pick went to shit, but Chris Curtis at least made me some money in a certain way. Plus the cosmic hilarity of Phil Hawes, one of these most dangerous middleweights, rising up to the UFC ranks, trying to fight for the title, gets knocked out by a guy who was retired at one point and moved up in weight. Talking a lot about Chris Curtis because Brendan Allen's going to kick his ass. Minus 350 for Brendan Allen. Comeback on Chris Curtis is plus 270. I don't think Chris Curtis has another spectacular come out of nowhere fucking knockout in this bout against Brendan Allen. Brendan Allen is a tougher dude than Phil Hawes. He may not be as powerful, but I think he's just very dangerous. Of course, on the ground, he's very skilled. His striking is incredibly improved. As long as he doesn't do anything stupid, like leave his chin up in the air or just expose his chin right to Chris Curtis's face, I think he wins this one. He is nearly 10 years younger. He's incredibly taller than Chris Curtis. He's 6'2" compared to the 5'10" of Chris Curtis. Oddly enough, identical reach at 75 inches, coming both out of pretty solid camp. Sanford MMA for Brendan Allen, Syndicate MMA for Chris Curtis. It just happens to fall down to the youth of Brendan Allen, the lack of punishment that he's taken over the years, and of course, I just think Brendan Allen's just incredibly skilled. As his striking is improving, I think it's just going to be very tough to beat Brendan Allen in the middleweight division. Of course, there are some people that are definitely going to kick his ass, but at this very point against Chris Curtis on short notice, Brendan Allen's going to win. I will say I'm going to give a bit of respect to Chris Curtis as a tough guy. I think he ends up losing by a decision. If Chris Curtis gets another spectacular out of nowhere knockout, I don't know what I'm going to do with the rest of my life, man, because like that would be 2 times that he fucks people over. Because I at this point, I am adding Brendan Allen to a parlay, so he better not fuck me on this one again, man. So I got Brendan Allen decision. Next bout, this incredible bout. I am looking forward to this one. Jimmy the Brute Crute versus Jamal Sweet Dreams Hill. This one gave me a lot of trouble until I watched tape because I was incredibly on one side. I'm like, yeah, I think this dude's going to do this and he's going to do that. And then I kind of flipped my mind. But currently the odds have it at minus 180 for Jimmy Crute. Comeback on Jamal Hill is plus 155. This one, man, I'm a little disappointed that Twitter really isn't talking about this one as much because I think this bout is incredibly important at light heavyweight. It's two guys that just recently lost in a weird way, kind of fluky in a sense. I don't want to necessarily use the word fluky, but my vocabulary is kind of low, and that's the only word I can think of. Uh, Jimmy Crute lost to Anthony Smith, got kicked in the leg just right, just in the sweet spot, got drop foot, couldn't continue. Funny enough, it looked like his leg was recovering after the break, the first round break, and he was walking towards the doctor and he's looking fine. And then he walks backwards. And that's kind of where he fucked up. He kind of stumbled a bit. They called off the fight. Jamal Hill, on the other hand, made a huge fucking mistake against Paul Craig. He either underestimated him or overestimated his skill set on the ground. He got completely destroyed on the ground by Paul Craig. We know about the arm, right? He got in that arm bar, but when he got placed in the triangle, that was some of the most savage ground and pound, if you will, from Paul Craig. Some of the nastiest strikes I've ever seen. Like Paul Craig was trying to kill Jamal Hill in that triangle. It was rewatching that. I was like, damn, Paul Craig is a monster. And what's funny is that Paul Craig is getting hair plugs, like he's getting hair reconstructive surgery or whatever the fuck you call it. And methinks that a very confident, full of hair Paul Craig is going to be a problem. If he's got the confidence to just pull guard and attack the arm bars, imagine how much confidence he's going to have when he has a full head of hair. So I don't really hold these two losses to these guys incredibly against them. It's just, damn, you guys should know better and you guys should learn from your mistakes. Jimmy Crute, the thing about Jimmy is that I don't think his striking is very good. I think a very experienced striker like Jamal Hill is going to piece him up on the feet. It comes down to Jimmy Crute has to take this fight to the ground and implement his strength and his ground game to not necessarily submit Jamal Hill. I don't think he has the ability to do so. It more so just stifle Jamal Hill on the ground. I don't think he's going to be able to do that against Anthony Smith. Smith was piecing him up with a beautiful jab, and Jimmy just had no answer for it. He is a powerful guy, though. His leg kicks towards Anthony Smith were hindering Smith, but not necessarily crippling him like the one that he took. As for Jamal Hill, the thing that really bothered me is that, yes, he was a minus over 200, and he should have knocked out Paul Craig, but he seemed a little too comfortable and a little too willing to fight on the ground with Paul Craig. I know Craig had his arm kind of hammer locked, but damn, Jamal, you should have gotten the fuck up. That's basically it. You should have got back up and trying to work your strikes, but he seemed a little too comfortable there. And I really don't think he's going to make that mistake again. I think he's going to primarily keep it on the feet, try to stay on the feet, use his wrestling in reverse, Chuck Liddell style. And I think he batters Jimmy Crute, and I think he might actually knock him out in like the later rounds. I will go by decision for Jamal Hill. I think, again, the more experienced striker, way more comfortable on the feet, the taller guy, longer reach. If I didn't even say that, it's 79 inches for Jamal Hill. Come back on Crute is 74. I don't see Jimmy Crute knocking out Jamal Hill. Jimmy Crute also has the willingness in him to strike instead of going for the takedowns. Again, he's very, very strong and was able to take down Anthony Smith with one leg. It's just that damn Jamal Hill, if he uses his striking and his footwork very well, I think he's going to give Jimmy Crute a lot of trouble. And it kind of sucks because I like both of these guys. In an alternate universe, this could be a title fight. Maybe not in the UFC, but just a title fight. But I'll go with Jamal Hill. Although he is the older guy, I think he has the it factor, the X factor, the striking, and just the better skill set between the two. Again, I think Jimmy Crute might be the better, well-rounded fighter. But in this particular matchup, the striking is just going to be a bit too much for Jimmy Crute. And that striking of Jamal Hill and the ability to stay on the feet and his competence on the ground should lead him to the decision. So I'll go with Jamal Hill by decision, but deep down in my heart, I want to go with maybe a second or third round knockout, but I'll go with decision because I'm a pussy. Next bout at lightweight, we've got Clay the Carpenter Guida versus Leonardo Santos. The odds currently have it in favor of Santos, minus 190. Come back on Clay Guida, plus 160. This is a fascinating bout. We've got a 41-year-old versus a 39-year-old. One is a wrestler with striking, and one is a jiu-jitsu black belt with striking. So it's essentially a mirror matchup in that sense of skill set. It's just that I think one is way more dangerous than the other. I think Leonardo Santos is a very, very dangerous fighter. Even at that age, he's very skilled. He is 18-4, his last loss being a knockout to Grant Dawson. And that's not necessarily saying that Leonardo Santos' chin is bad. It's just that Grant Dawson took an opportunity where a very confident Leonardo Santos thought he was going to win a bout and attack the leg for a heel hook, which left his face exposed, which led to Grant Dawson landing some absolutely vicious hammer fists that he just did not see coming. So Leonardo Santos loses by knockout 8 months ago, and Clay Guida loses by split decision to Marco Madsen. Marco Madsen tried to strike that entire time, didn't want to use his wrestling for whatever fucking reason, scared the hell out of me because I had a max bet on Marco Madsen with another person, a parlay with him and someone else I forgot, and he was scaring the shit out of me. He was the last guy I needed to win. But I'll say this, Clay Guida's hands look very solid. Like, he seemed to have more power in his punches. I do not see him winning this bout, though. Again, if he tries to take Santos to the ground, he's not going to have fun there. And Santos, despite anything, his striking's not too bad. Like, he's been able to get knockouts. He knocked out, who was it? Stevie Ray. He nearly knocked out Roman Bagatov. Let's not talk about that fight. That was a weird fucking fight. But yeah, I think Santos, he's very dangerous on the feet, very dangerous on the ground. We'll see how well his chin will hold up against Clay Guida. Guida's power hasn't really been anything to write home about, but those strikes he was landing on Marco Madsen were concerning. Maybe it's just me being a bit paranoid because I was watching this fight. I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna knock out Marco Madsen. I'm gonna lose everything, type of shit. But again, I see Santos winning this one pretty easily. I'll go with second round submission. I think Guida makes a mistake, which leads to Santos either snatching a neck or something, or a rear naked choke. Santos, I think he's very sneaky when it comes to his wrestling. So if Guida tries to maybe take him down, I can see Santos reversing, maybe doing some sort of judo flip and landing on top, and then Guida's going to be fucked. So I'll go with Santos to win second round submission, rear naked choke to be exact. Our next bout, co-main event, Rafael Fiziev versus Brad Riddell. This bout, I was like so certain. That's what I love about this sport, man. I think I know something. That I rewatched tape on these guys, and I'm like, oh, I see. I think I know what's up. Currently, the odds have it in favor of Fiziev, -115, comeback on Riddell, -105. So it's nearly even, slight edge towards Fiziev. This bout intrigues me a whole hell of a lot. I think these two guys are extremely talented strikers. I think these guys are incredibly tough. Fiziev, the dude is just a ridiculously good striker. Great movement, great punches, great kicks. Power advantage, I'll go with Riddell. Fiziev, I think he has power, but he's more of a technique type of guy. He does tend to slow down, though, in certain situations. So Brad Riddell, on the other hand, he may not be the best striker. He's a solid striker, don't get me wrong. He's not as flashy as Fiziev. He's not as fast as Fiziev. It's just that he has the X factor, which is the dog in him. He can take a punch, and he knows what to do to recover, and he's willing to. The best way I can describe it as a striker, both of these guys, of course, strikers, both kickboxers. I think Brad Riddell's willing to look more like a pussy by going for a takedown to win a fight, opposed to trying to keep it standing and maybe get knocked out. The fight between him and Drew Dober, I rewatched it this morning, and I was like, Jesus Christ, man. I had heard a rumor that Drew Dober got cut. I couldn't verify that on any website, but if they did, man, Drew Dober's a phenomenal fighter. He's a goddamn dog. Both of these guys are. That was a great fight, and it could have gone either way, but Brad Riddell was willing to do things in that fight, in a mixed martial arts fight, to win a mixed martial arts fight, opposed to what I think Fiziev is willing to do. I don't think he's willing to go for a takedown. In his fight with Bobby Green, He looked great the first round. He looked even better the second round. That third round, man, Bobby Green put it on him and he scared the shit out of me. I'm like, because I had money on Fiziev. I thought he was going to school Bobby, but that was an incredible fight. Very technical on the feet. Fiziev, what concerns me is that I do not think he has that dog in him like Riddell does. I think that if things aren't going well for him, I think he might crumble. And it sucks to say because I think he's an excellent striker. I really do like Fiziev, but that fight with Bobby Green, he has some tendencies in there that concern me. He uses a lot of movement when it's not necessary. He was moving a lot against Bobby Green, and Bobby was barely moving, and he was throwing strikes, but he wasn't really landing a whole ton of them. They were mostly landing on the body. They were body kicks, and it just seemed like, dude, what are you doing? You're gonna get tired, and he did, because I've never seen Fiziev tired until I saw that third round against Bobby Green, and Bobby Green was like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna come after you." Hood Bobby Green, when you punch Bobby Green, and he's like, "All right, fuck it, I'm gonna go full hood on you." Terrifying, man, absolutely terrifying. He almost lands at will because he's just like, "Fuck it, I'm going straight Inglewood on you," or whatever the fuck he's from. So it's yeah, dude, Bobby Green kicks ass. I used to hate Bobby Green. And then this morning I was like, why did I hate Bobby Green? Why didn't I like him? And then I remembered, like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. A long time ago, over like 10 or so years ago, he fought James Krause at lightweight. And he had kicked him in the balls like three times or kneed him in the balls a couple times. And I was like, what the fuck? Come on, Bobby. And then he kicks Krause to the body kind of low. In my eyes, he kicked him in the cup. Krause crumbles to the ground in pain after getting hit in the balls multiple times. And I don't remember who the ref was, but they call it off as a TKO. I want to say it was Dan Mergliotta calls it off as a TKO win for Bobby Green. I'm like, ah, oh, fuck that. But, it is what it is. Bobby Green kicks ass. But Fiziev, as much as I really like the guy, I think he loses his bout. I don't think his pride allows him to try to go for a takedown. And I'm not trying to say that Brad doesn't have pride. I know he does. It's just that I think he's understanding that this is a mixed martial arts bout and he has to win the fight in every way, not just in the striking. Plus, Brad Riddell's right hand is a goddamn laser. I think he has the more power, although he did get stunned by Drew Dober. Drew Dober's got some ridiculous power. You cannot sleep on the power of Drew Dober ever, and I think he slightly did in that fight. Afterwards, he made some proper adjustments, started throwing the right hand a lot faster, a lot cleaner, landing to the legs. He ended up getting that decision. Of course, he even made Drew Dober shoot for a shot. That's like, dude, that doesn't happen. That's a lot of respect you have to show to Brad Riddell for making Drew Dober shoot on Brad Riddell. I think Riddell's leg kicks are going to be a factor. He's going to have to slow down Fiziev with the leg kicks. Fiziev is very good with head movement and body movement. So if you attack the legs, that's going to slow him down. Attack the body. It's going to be a tough round one for Brad Riddell because Fiziev is just a whirlwind in there, and it's really tough to make the adjustments in that first round. So don't be alarmed if you do bet Brad Riddell if he loses that first round. Come the second and the third, I think Riddell's going to make the proper adjustments, and he's going to eventually find the chin of Fiziev. So yes, I am calling it now. I'm going with Brad Riddell. I'm going to say second or third round knockout. Officially, I'll go with a second round knockout. I think because an exhausted Fiziev might try to run away in the third round, but a slightly tired Fiziev in round number two is going to still be willing to engage because he's not managing his gas tank as well. And he's going to get caught with a right hand that knocks him out. I think Fiziev, although he is incredibly talented with his defense and his striking, I think he is a bit chinny, not necessarily because Mustafayev knocked him out with a spinning back kick. That does play into my reasoning why I'm picking Brad Riddell to win. I just see sometimes that he can be a bit predictable, which will allow Brad Riddell to catch him with something and knock him out. So I'll go with the round number two knockout, Brad Riddell. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited for this bout. So let me know what you think about this one, because this one's incredibly tough, because I can still see Fiziev just dancing on the outside, throwing kicks and winning a decision. I don't think he'll be able to knock out Brad Riddell. I think he might be a little too too scared to engage with the pit bull dog type of fighter that Riddell is. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I got Riddell's second round knockout. Main event of the evening: Rob Font versus Jose Aldo. What a main event. I'm incredibly looking forward to this fight between these two dudes. Obviously, the legend of Jose Aldo and the upcoming star of Rob Font. Rob Font, obviously known for his boxing. Jose Aldo, known for just being a ass kicker from the WEC to the UFC to losing his belt to regaining the belt to re-losing the belt, moving down to bantamweight and trying to make it three in a row for Jose Aldo after not having the best of luck in his first two fights at bantamweight. But since then, it seems like he's really refocused his life, refocused his game plans in the UFC. And I think we're seeing a different, dare I say, better version of Jose Aldo, one with all the experience from the past, but with life lessons and adjustments made to really suit him in his career currently, which honestly, I think it makes him a very dangerous fighter still. As for Rob Font, dude's on a 4-fight winning streak, been knocking dudes out, knocked out Marlon Moraes. Oh man, rewatching that fight was like, Jesus Christ, Rob Font has some scary hands, and winning a bout against former bantamweight champ Cody Garbrandt. Crazy fight. I'm cannot wait for this one. I'm really excited that we get a cleansing of the soul from the previous week's horrible main event. So this is like a I'm sorry card from the UFC. But currently the odds have it in favor of Rob Font minus 145, comeback on Jose Aldo plus 125. Both of these guys, I have to say, are pretty up in age. 35 years old for Aldo. Rob Font, you would think he's a younger guy, but no, he's 34 years old. And these guys are very, very evenly matched. 5'7" for Aldo, 5'8" for Rob Font, 71.5-inch reach for Font, comeback on Aldo, 70-inch reach. So it's not a huge disadvantage for Aldo. This fight had me going back and forth, just like a lot of these fights in this card. And initially I was like, I think Aldo takes it. Call me crazy. I think Aldo's going to win this fight at plus 125. I think he has the proper adjustments currently to win this fight. But then I rewatched the fight between Rob Font and Marlon Moraes. I'm like, damn. Rob Font has some crazy hands. And if he lays that boxing on Jose Aldo, it could be a problem. Aldo has had issues in the past with long, reachy guys like Max Holloway. But I will say Rob Font's no Max Holloway. Rob Font's very, very good, but he ain't no Max Holloway. I think Aldo's fought the way better competition. For Rob Font, he's on a 4-fight winning streak. Over on paper, some great wins. He's got a win over Sergio Pettis, currently the Bellator bantamweight champion. He's got a win over Ricky Simon, a very solid competitor at bantamweight. He's got a win over Marlon Moraes, knocked him out very incredibly. And then he's got a win over Cody Garbrandt by decision. On paper, that's a great 4-fight winning streak. But when you look deeper into it, Sergio Pettis, 2 years ago when they fought, he moved up from flyweight. That was his first fight at bantamweight. He got Rob Font, a guy with some ridiculous reach, and he just could not find the chin of Rob Font. He easily beat Sergio Pettis. At that time, Sergio was nowhere near one of the best bantamweight fighters in the world. I think right now, 2 years later, he's a solid bantamweight. Ricky Simon, coming off of a loss against Uriah Faber, didn't seem to have the same kind of confidence in there. And Rob Font ended up getting the decision win. Next bout, Marlon Moraes, he gets knocked out. Marlon's just not the same fighter. He just doesn't have the same chin anymore, and his cardio seems to be getting progressively worse. He seemingly gassed out, taking Rob Font down. Rob Font gets back up and just demolishes him on the feet. And Cody Garbrandt, yeah, he beat Cody Garbrandt, but although that was on paper Cody Garbrandt, I don't know who the fuck that fighter was, because that was not Cody Garbrandt. Did not seem to fight the same way. This Cody Garbrandt was going for takedowns, and what concerns me is that he got them very easily on Rob Font in those first 2 rounds. Like, Rob didn't expect them. I don't think Rob Font's takedown defense is all that great. It can be, definitely, it can be great in there. Like, he's been stuffing takedowns better. It's just that when he gets surprised with the takedown, he gives them up quite easily. He's not focused on that takedown so much because he's just wanting to strike. For this particular fight, I have to go with Jose Aldo, and I'll explain why. Although I do fear the fact that Aldo's cardio can fail him in certain cases, like fourth and fifth round, it's going to be very, very tough for Aldo if he doesn't manage his gas tank. But I think he's got the ability to win this one. And I'll explain because he's been training his boxing with the Brazilian Navy, and it really showed in his fight with Pedro Munoz. In that particular fight, Pedro Munoz, his game plan was to out Jose Aldo, and it did not work because Jose Aldo wasn't playing that game. Jose was being very patient in there. And I remember thinking, like, I recall Jose throwing kicks. Where are these kicks? The first round threw 0 kicks. Second round only threw 1 kick. Third round, he threw 7 kicks. And those 7 kicks in the third round were incredibly devastating. It dropped Pedro Munoz multiple times. And it just showed me, damn, he still has those kicks in him. And when he lets them go, they are nasty. Rob Font is very lead leg heavy in his stance. If Jose Aldo throws these kicks, they're going to be a huge factor in this fight. The thing about that, though, is that Rob Font more than likely knows that. So he's planning a strategy to either check the kicks or avoid the kicks or try to switch stances and just use a lot of movement. But again, in that fight with Pedro Munoz, Jose Aldo was very patient. He was primarily boxing and doing a very good job. His defense is definitely improved. His jab is definitely improved. It's going to be a fascinating fight on the feet. The thing about Jose Aldo that scares me against Rob Font is that if Rob starts teeing off on him, because when Rob Font lets his hands go, it is beautiful. It's immaculate. It's terrifying. Jose Aldo really has to block these punches and use head movement. The thing about the leg kick factor is that with Rob Font knowing that these kicks might be coming, the strategy of Jose Aldo is to trick Rob Font into forgetting about the leg kick. So what Aldo would have to do is do basically the same strategy as the Pedro Munoz fight, not throw many leg kicks in the beginning of the fight, just kind of reserve them, make Rob Font think you're primarily boxing, especially with this whole narrative of Jose Aldo boxing with the Brazilian Navy. They even have a UFC video about how he did that. Just kind of trick Rob Font into thinking, okay, this is primarily boxing, have him forget about the leg kicks. And then when he's not expecting it and he leaves his lead leg just planted there, you blast it with an inside leg kick or an outside leg kick, whatever you got, Jose Aldo. And I think those are going to be the deciding factor in this fight. If Aldo can really start landing those kicks and have Rob Font worried about not only just the punches, but the kicks, I think it's going to be an easy night for Jose Aldo. Come the fourth and fifth round, if Aldo is trailing, I think Aldo is willing to just dispense the gas tank. And an Aldo that's willing to really go out for broke, he's a dangerous guy, man. Those combinations he was landing on Pedro Munoz in the third round were nasty. He was ripping to the body. Dude's still very fast, even for his age. Yeah, man, I do worry, of course, about Rob Font knocking out Jose Aldo. I think he has the skill to do so. But Jose Aldo, I think, with a cerebral game plan, and again, he has to attack the legs to slow down Rob Font. And I'm telling you, it'll just take one solid leg kick from Jose Aldo to really screw up Rob Font's movement. I think he wins this fight either by a decision or even stopping Rob Font. As much as I love Rob Font striking, I don't think he's the most durable guy. So I think Jose Aldo has the ability to stop him. So I will go with Jose Aldo to win this bout by I'll take a shot in the dark. I'll say fourth round TKO. I think he finds the body and then eventually TKOs Rob Font. I have really grown to respect Jose Aldo over the last few years. The dude really rose back out of the ashes, and I think he's really demonstrating that he still has that fire to be a competitor. And the fact that he's training with the Brazilian Navy team, the fact that he's changing his game plans, reserving his gas tank, being more of a cerebral defensive fighter with a really solid jab, I'm willing to take a shot on Aldo to win. Although I really do think Rob Font, being the rightful favorite, he has a definite chance to knock out Jose Aldo. If Jose Aldo comes in here with a very solid game plan, knowing that he's a championship level fighter, I just really am putting all my chips in that basket that he's going to come in here with a proper game plan to really dispense Rob Font and prove why he should have another crack at Peter Yan. I think this fight would really propel him into being talked about for another title fight. So I'm excited to see what happens. But yeah, I'll go with Jose Aldo to win this one by a fourth round TKO. I really like those dog odds. As for possible parlays, I have a couple in mind. I always have my ridiculous long shot parlay, but for this particular fight card, I'm going to try to be a bit more conservative. I'll start off with Brendan Allen, currently with through my casino minus 365. Next, I will go with Leonardo Santos. I like him at currently minus 177. I'll go with Azamat minus 250. And I think that might be it for just the base parlay between these three fighters, Brendan Allen, Leonardo Santos, and Azamat. Gives me a plus 180. So I kind of like those odds. Might put a couple bucks on that. If I want to have some bit of fun, the next fighter I would add in this particular parlay that I don't feel incredibly confident in, but semi-confident, I will go with Brad Riddell. I think he's going to win this fight. I just have that feeling. So by adding him at a minus 104, the odds are now plus 450. I might do that as well. Might just start adding people. But for my long shot dumbass parlay, I'm doing those dudes plus Jamal Hill, plus Jose Aldo, and yeah, fuck it, Jeremiah Wells. So that gives me plus 7,549. So let's just say I put $10. That gives me $754. I'm actually going to go with this particular parlay, see if it cashes out. Probably post a picture of it on Instagram if you want to see that I'm not a fucking liar. Unless none of these dudes pulls out, this is one of the parlays I'm going to be posting. So hopefully these check out. Let me know what you guys think about the possible parlays, what your possible parlays are for this card. I'm super excited. I'm having withdrawals from fucking UFC. I had to watch that garbage Triller triad fighting combat bullshit, and Jesus, man, it was tough to watch. Matt Mitrione kind of got screwed out of a decision. Yeah, dude, it was awful. I hope to never see that crap again. But those have been my picks for UFC Fight Night, Font versus Aldo. Please, again, leave a comment, like, share, subscribe, and I will catch you next week with Jose. See ya.